running here. Is that the case? Let me see if I'm on. Check, check, check audio. Check, check, check. How's it going, Lindsay? Alright, should have a guest here in a second. Check, check, check audio. Check, check, check. Oh. Didn't go through. Let me get the audio on. Sorry, guys. Should have a guest here in a second. Check, check, check audio. Getting there, getting there. What is that? Come on.
Grandpa busted out of here way back.
It doesn't look like that went through. Hang on. Oops. There we go. Hello. Wait, can you hear me?
Yes, now I can.
There we go. Yes, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
Good. So we're live. All right. Again, the format is I do the interview while playing video games. So I guess the first question is, before I even introduce you, if you were trapped in Montana by a murderous cult and there was no outside communication, what would you do? What's the game plan?
I can't beat them, so I gotta join them. I gotta murder some people. I'm joining the cult.
All right, Afenya, Pongo Montgomery of the ICAN Collective in Chicago joins me today as I stumble around this old prison that's a hideout for the good guys. So this is you were kind of a couple steps away from me until now. I actually talked to your brother for about a half hour last night, so that was cool. So we were kicking around some ideas. So your brother was actually one of my students. I was his one of his college instructors. And then I saw on Facebook that he shared that what you're doing and the kind of the purpose of this channel is the halfway point between business, career, and pop culture. And I thought that was a really, really good connection, kind of what you were doing. So if you want to kind of jump in on just a 2-sentence summary of what the ICAN Collective is, and then let's kind of back up and talk about how you got there. And then I'll probably throw some like kind of harder entrepreneurship questions at you, just because I've done a good bit of projects with funded startups. So we'll start there. So.
Oh, awesome.
Go for it.
So the ICAN Collective is the Innovation, Collaboration, Accountability Network, and it is all about pairing diverse entrepreneurs to resources, information, and opportunities to collaborate with people with like-minded people to create, launch, and scale businesses. So I want to help people create the businesses of their dreams based on their ideas and taking those ideas and driving them down the road of execution. So I think sometimes we get stuck in our heads, and it's important to, make sure that people have that opportunity to really dive into the ideas they have and make them reality.
Yeah. By the way, this should be up on my Facebook and Twitter if you want to share it up, or you can share the video later or
Oh,
whatever.
sure.
Um,
Yeah,
so, are
sure.
you mainly working with funded startups, or just people that are going out and starting a business? Because I will probably have heavy thoughts on both of those here in a second, but go ahead.
Okay, so yes, have some heavy thoughts. So these are people who are really just starting typically. A lot of them are side hustlers. They are starting their own things from scratch, don't have a lot of information about how to start a business. They have a full time job and they're looking to expand, or, they've done the first few steps and they don't know what to do next.
Gotcha. Okay. And how did you get there? How did you start this thing? Um, yeah, yeah. I'll
Okay,
just leave it open ended, and then we'll kind of dive in a little deeper. By the way, this is my lunch
okay,
hour here in corporate America, so if you see me eating lunch, it's because I'm eating lunch.
that's all good. So, so the way I started with wanting to. My background is in nursing, so I was starting my own healthcare consulting company, and I realized that I didn't have all the information that I needed to actually take that business to the level that I wanted it to go. And so I started doing like what you said, talking to people like my brother, getting together with people, having conversations like these. And it just started to grow, and people started coming to me for advice. I started building this network, and it kind of organically grew into something. And people were like, you should do this, you should actually have an event like this. So it started with an event, and it began to grow.
Okay. By the way, I think if you're seeing the video, you're a couple minutes behind me. I'm about getting trashed here by some cult members, so that's why
What game is it?
it's called Far Cry 5. Do you have any
Oh,
background in video games or no?
um, Sims. That's probably the closest. Mario Brothers and Sims. That's
Mario
my
Brothers and
background.
Sims. Okay. I think that the nursing background, before we talk about the kind of businesses you're working with, is interesting. And that a lot of people think like they have to have some sort of really linear, like, I had an
Yeah.
MBA and then I did this and then I did this. And a lot of times that's really not the case. It's
Agreed.
interesting to me how many people I know that have gone on to sort of successful business that were a physical therapist, or, you know, not that they opened a physical therapy practice, but they quit that and
Exactly.
opened something like that. Like there really isn't,
Mhm.
um, and I did grad school twice. I have an MBA. Blah 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 blah. That's
Mhm.
there's good things about that, but that's definitely not the only
Yes.
path to it. Um, so there is a most people don't want to do what you're doing. Most people don't want to say, I'm going to go out there and, you know, and take all the risk and not know what my future is going to be, etc. Um, so when when did that become something you had to do?
Okay, so I started this as an idea at the end of 2016. So it's it started to formulate then. My first event was June 2017. And I used that and a couple of more to see if it was really something that people would actually want to be a part of, that people want to feed into, that people find of interest. And so I'm really a believer in checking things out, making sure that it's feasible, making sure that people try things. I think a lot of
You
people
gotta help
have
me. Thanks, deputy.
they go too
Those fields of
far
flowers get
beyond
picked,
the simple
broken
stuff.
down, and
Everyone
distilled into
wants
liquid
to
bliss.
figure out if they need an LLC or an S corp or all that, and I think that's important. Those things are
Give 'em
important,
that.
but I think first you should figure out if you have something that people want to buy or that people believe in enough to spend money on.
Yeah, yeah. It's something I've definitely noticed is the amount of stuff people obsess over
Yes.
um, versus what actually works. And basically, what actually works is, can you sell something? People don't realize businesses die when they're out of cash, not when they're out of good ideas, not when they,
Right. Right.
have a management issue or an employee leaves. They just run. They die when
Mhm.
they're out of cash.
Yep.
And if
Yep.
something happens, like a rock star employee leaves, and then the business goes under, or there's a partnership breakup or something like that,
Right.
yeah, maybe that was the cause, but they just ran out of money. And so the first thing
Exactly.
you have to focus on is just making sure that that your coin is squared away and that you're in pretty good shape.
Yes.
What I was going to start pushing a little harder on, I didn't know what kind of startups you were working on. My experience, because Chicago does have a pretty good startup community right now, is
Mm-hmm.
that people who are getting money for the most part are probably a lot of times too early on in their careers, and maybe they have an idea
Mm-hmm.
but they don't know how to manage it. And this is just me honestly making decent-ish, okay, kind of side cash doing
Mm-hmm.
projects, and I'm like, these people don't know what they're doing.
Yes.
They just like they're passionate, and they're like, oh, we should break all the rules, and maybe they have an idea on the product, but they don't know how to like just manage people and make sure the bills get paid, and think
Yes.
about taxes and all that other stuff that really will kill you really fast if you don't know what you're
You're
doing.
right. And to your point about funding, I think that I love Shark Tank. That's like I love it. But Shark Tank culture makes people think that they need to get all this cash from outside sources, and that if you haven't raised $40 million for your business, for your startup, then your startup is trash. And that's not always the case. I think that um, I believe in the simple steps. So a lot of that's why I love like side hustling. I think it's so smart to like build up your idea while you have a job, and use that job as your investor to fund your idea while you're figuring it all out. And on the path to making sure the idea has legs to make money, you're not struggling. See, the struggle and the desperation of trying to feed yourself can make you make some crazy decisions too.
Yeah, that there is such a mentality there that people think that there's this romanticism to choosing to be broke. You know what I
Right,
mean? Like,
right, right.
it's like,
Mhm.
oh well, it'll work because I put so much into it, and because I'm desperate, somehow that'll make me better or sharper or something like that. And
Yes,
usually, it just makes you think more short term, and it makes you more skittish. It
yes,
makes you make decisions you wouldn't normally make. You know,
yes.
and
That is so true.
there's all these romantic stories of like, oh well, I just Jerry Maguire did. I walked off. I walked off my
Hmm.
job and I went and did this, and and then it all worked out. And that's because you're hearing the 0.01% on YouTube, because people don't make
Exactly.
YouTube videos about like, I quit my job. We racked up a ton of credit card debt. It put a
Yes,
ton of stress on my health. And then I had to
yes.
go get another job and live broke still so I could pay off the credit card debt from my business that tanked.
Right, and that is the story, and those are the things we don't hear. Like once again, I love Gary V. Gary V is my boy. Love him, love him, love him. But he often says things like go get 8 roommates, live together, all of those things, which I think people can do at a certain stage in their life. But I'm married, I have kids, I have a husband. It's not always feasible for the person who's not like building this business at 18 years old, and maybe they don't have responsibilities in the same way. Or some people who are 18 have a ton of responsibilities that I didn't have at 18. So everybody's situation is so different, and we do romanticize the struggle life. Like
Yeah.
that. I had to grind it out, and yeah, we all are grinding, but it doesn't have to be intense in that way.
Well, there is a. By the way, if you're just joining us, because I got people popping in and out the whole time.
Yeah.
I am pronouncing your name correctly, right?
Yes, Afenya.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, because I pronounced your brother's name correctly wrong for like a month in class, and then he finally corrected me, so that was awkward. Um, No, like I said, I didn't know what kind of businesses you were working with, and
Yes.
this is people don't want to hear. They don't want to hear that like brutal truth that like
Right.
maybe if it doesn't matter if you want to go do music or you want to start a business or you have kind of a social good type of thing that you want to do. You're a nurse. One of the best things you could do is that you just go get a nursing degree so you can be a traveling nurse 6 weeks at a time, and then whatever your thing is, tour the band, work on a project,
Right.
whatever it is, like all of a sudden you have the freedom to do that because you're making really good money, like
Right.
filling nursing rotational schedules. And everybody's like, oh, I'm going to move to LA and we're going to get a tiny little office. I'm going to work at Starbucks at night or something like that. It's like, well, I mean,
Right.
yeah, I mean, as long as you can hang on. I will say about the life stage thing, it's different. I will say there was a lot less pressure than I thought in my early 20s. I was all freaked out about like, making sure
Mhm.
I paid my student loans and like
Right,
all that
right.
stuff. And now I look back and I'm like, I seriously probably, and I always thought like, oh well, I was a pretty responsible person. Like I got to go to work.
Hmm.
I come from a pretty blue collar background.
Yeah.
I didn't have like a family fund to bail me out or anything.
Right.
And so it was like, um, the kind of the whole thing was just that I thought I had to keep working, and that was really important.
Hmm.
And not that it wasn't, but like I would have been fine. You know, I would have been.
I hear you. Because when you look back at it, right, you're like,
Well, even if you like,
what?
even if
Yeah,
you
go
screw
ahead.
up your credit, like, and not that I'm saying you
Yeah.
should, but even let's just say you
Right.
do when you're 23. I mean, just
Right.
okay, so figure something else out, and it'll be back up in 8 months. Like, you'll be fine.
Yeah. We
Way
live
different
so
when you got kids and
intensely.
stuff. What's that?
Yeah, I think we live so intensely, man. Like, I think that the formula that we're given makes us so like, everything has to be done this way. And if you didn't do it this way, then you totally messed up your life.
Yeah,
And when you're in your 20s, that pressure, when you look back, you're like, man, I was freaked out about nothing. You know, like,
yeah.
yeah. So I
Well,
think it's,
I had a desire at one point to just like kind of just take some time to like do whatever. Like I remember being in my kind of mid 20s, like 25, 26, 27, having it look like I was doing really well at a job and I quote unquote was like successful by kind of the bullet point list or whatever. And
mhm,
then just being like, I kind of really would like to just take a year off and be out of here and do something like literally like go work on a barge in the Mississippi River, just something so different that like
yeah.
it would have been just a totally different life experience. And but then I was like, oh well, I got to keep my career going. You know what I mean? Like um, that there's like oh, if I just walk away from this thing, who knows if I'll ever get it back? Like it's like
Yeah.
I've built this thing, and I look back and I'm like, I could have taken so many detours and it would have been fine. Not that I exactly regret being responsible, but for somebody else, I would say like you got a lot less to worry about at that stage than you think you got.
Right. And it is so scary. And I think we don't think that, that job will be there, that career will be there. I think we've really been conditioned that way, though. It's we've been conditioned to feel like this is the way to do things. And, if you don't do it now and you don't do it in your 20s, then, you're ruining everything.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
absolutely. And like the point is, you've got to get the if you're serious about building a resume and stuff, it's like that you got to get that all squared away. And I mean, nobody's
Yes.
gonna bat an eye if
Yes.
if you take the year off, if you try some stuff, whatever. Like I would say, they are going to bat an eye when you're in your 30s and 40s and switching jobs every year. You better figure, you better not be doing that.
Exactly.
Um,
Yes.
but when you're in your 20s, you've got so much space to figure that out. Um, okay, so let's. I'll get a little more into the hard hitting questions. Okay.
Oh,
So you're working with all
okay.
these with different companies.
Yes.
Statistically, most of them are going to tank. Like most of them are going to
Yes.
fail. They're going to run out of money. They're going to go away.
Yes.
What's that like? I mean, I grew up on a farm, and like I knew that like some of the lambs and cows and pigs were going to get eaten, and so you kind of only got attached to certain animals that weren't going to be
Right.
food.
Yes.
But when it's people, you got to look in the eye every day, and you're going in realizing like, you know, maybe I don't know whether it's 15% or 75% of them, it's
Mhm.
not going to work, and maybe the third thing after this will work. But I mean, the whole name of the game is it fails. Like that's just what happens. So what's that like?
Yes. So, with a lot of, so the events, so I also have conferences and we do like workshops and things like that. And I, what I've seen at a lot of entrepreneurship conferences is a lot of motivation and inspiration, but not a lot of practicality. So I try to infuse that into everything we do. I want to be as practical as possible and give people actual strategies. And what I have noticed, like to your point, um, you kind of know that some people are just not going to do anything that
Once you reach the
you're
conservatory, you
telling
clear the
them
place.
that they should
The
do.
key is burning
And
away
you kind
moose
of see that
traps.
at the beginning.
That's gonna
There
bring
are
Feeny out of the woods.
some
Good
people
luck.
who have watched so much YouTube, so many things on Instagram, and so many of those romanticized stories that they think that life just happens because, you say you're going to start a business and so did it, and look at them, they have fancy stuff on Instagram, and I'm going to be that way too. So, um, I give people the information, and I wait for them to take the steps, and if they don't, they tend to fade away,
Yeah.
which is very, which is, and you'll see people kind of hop around a lot. And, I'm there for information and resources, but I know that I can't force people to do what they need to do to make sure their businesses work. And like you said, you you don't get so attached to you may like the person but I understand that their idea may always just be an idea because whatever is holding them back will continue to. Sometimes it's fear, sometimes it's just lack of knowledge and not the want to gain more of it. And you just gotta let that ride. Like, I'll listen, I'll give you resources, I'll see what you do with them, and I'll be here when you come back and with the next idea, and I'll give you the same information again, and hope that you take it.
Yeah. Well, if I can be a little more blunt than that, I've seen a lot of people fail just out of lack of personal discipline.
Yeah,
It's like, well, how do I know if I can start a business or not? Well, why don't you get up at the same time every day and go to the gym and not
yes,
eat garbage, and like be responsible in other things,
that's
and
exactly
you know,
true.
like, are you if like I'm speaking as somebody who I'm really happy in corporate America right now. Like, and do I
Yeah,
ever want to go down that road again? I have no idea. I don't know how to tell you either way. Not anytime soon. Like, my daughter's 11 months old. I love the fact that I went from, yeah, thank you, yeah, she's pretty cute and very fun, and life's good. And I went from working 80 hours a week, not seeing my wife or daughter hardly at all, to a situation where I'm just so dang happy to work, sometimes 60, 65 hours a week, depending on the project. But it's a
but
different
there's a
kind of
different kind of struggle. Yes,
pressure.
and it's a
Yeah.
different kind of. And
You
I
know,
think too, people are bullied into this entrepreneurship thing. I call it bullied because they look at what everyone's doing and they think that that is what you're supposed to do right now. There's no rule. Like, you're not supposed to do entrepreneurship. You're not supposed to do a corporate path. You're supposed to do what you want to do. And that
yeah.
could look like anything. And that's okay.
Well, and I think that one of the things I kind of have to say right now is because, like, working for somebody else gets so demonized. It's like, one of the best things you can honestly do is, like, even if you want to start a business, one of the preliminaries for that is work for some really good companies. Like, if you haven't worked for a great boss and a bad boss both, how are you gonna know what works and what doesn't?
I
Like,
say that all the time. I
you
say it all the time.
and I mean, quite frankly, I've also been around some rich kids that just like have, they're like, oh, well, I've been in business for 8 years, and then it's like, oh, well, um, also my, I'm living off a trust fund. I mean, I seriously know somebody that's like, I'm quote unquote, creative entrepreneur type thing, and well, my parents pay my bills, and I'm a grown up, and that's fine. Like, if that's what you got going on, that's fine. But
But
then
that's
people who
different.
don't have that are like, well, that person's making it, right? So why can I not? Oops, I just got killed. Why can I not make it like that? It's like, well, because you're trying to copy a business that isn't a business. It's just not there.
Exactly. It's not exactly. And people aren't looking at the core of what it is that they want to do. They're looking at the surface of other people's whatever persona they want to display.
Yeah.
And you're so right about the job thing. I mean, there's so much that you learn. Let's say you do want to start your own thing that you're working for. So much you learn. So much you learn in corporate America. I think it's so important to, it's so important to get a job, understand how that world works, because those are the values that you're going to take into your own thing. Like you said, how to be a leader, leadership skills. That's it. Jobs will pay for you to go to conferences and learn a lot of other things. So there's a lot of value in working for me. And I think these days a lot of people aren't doing that because I think younger people are starting businesses, earlier and earlier and earlier in life. And they don't have that foundation set. So you
Yeah.
gotta consider that too.
Well, you know what? Honestly, the ones I've seen that made it work, like they opened, the ones that did it and worked for themselves, they did something really simple early on and made like they had to figure out how to balance books and stuff like that. Like, my one friend who might be watching right now. I mean, he started a mowing business when we were in high school. I played basketball with him, and that is way different than being like, well, we're an app software social media 2.0 company.
Exactly.
That's pretty undefined. So what I always do, and I don't know if this is your approach or not, or if you want to take it, but because I also worked in radio for a decade, and I'd have all these people that would say like, oh well, I want to do music. What do I have to do to music? And so I always felt like my job was, first of all, try to talk them out of it as best as I possibly could. Because I knew the stats, right? Like, this probably isn't going to happen. It's probably harder than you think. It's probably, you're not going to like it as much as you think. And so they would try to, this is back in the CD days and stuff, they'd try to hand me a demo or something. And I'd always start with, like, no, hang on. I don't even want to listen to that until, like, you want to talk about how to make it? Let's talk about how to make it. What's your margin on t-shirts? And they're like, what? I'm like, well, your margin on t-shirts, like, you need to be able to, like, make a pretty good amount of money on a single print color t-shirt. And if you do a multi-color print on your shirt, the shirt you could probably only sell for 12 or 15 bucks because nobody knows who you are. You're now only making $4 a shirt instead of $7, and that's a really big deal. And whether or not your demo's any good, if you don't know that, you're not going to hang on long enough to get to where you need to go.
Yep. Exactly.
I mean, there is those lottery ticket, I got hurt on SoundCloud things, right? But usually not.
That's usually not the case. No.
Yeah.
No. And you're right. People don't necessarily know their numbers. They don't know what outcomes they need to reflect success. So, like, what are your goals, and what does it look like to be successful in that? Like you said, if you have a t-shirt and you bought it for $20 and you're selling it for $25.99, you can sell out all day, but you're not getting the kind of profit that you need, and that is not the best thing for a business. Now, if you're doing something for a hobby or doing something, for fun, that approach is different. Maybe I just, make music for fun, and I throw myself on SoundCloud just because I like to. I think people need to realize the difference between an actual business and just things that you like to do for fun, hobbies, and leisure activities.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with owning a job, right? So owning a job is, I make leather notebook covers. They're really cool. I sell them on Etsy. I want to sell more. That's owning a job. Nothing wrong with that, but you need to focus on being a craftsman and not think that you need to be thinking like a business person.
Right.
Because a business is, I figure out how to scale that, and we're doing corporate gifts of notebooks.
Exactly.
And that's what this whole thing is about. Not like,
Yeah.
I am, by the way, we got about 6 minutes left before I got to go back.
Yeah.
This has been super cool. But let's kind of roll. If you just want to hit, I'd love to have you jump back on. The reason I'm doing the video game thing is because, like, if you look at the really big podcasts, like Joe Rogan, they got it in 2008 and they stuck with it. It's just easier when there's not that many people doing something to pay attention. Nobody else is doing, like, video games and grown-up topics.
At all. Never seen it before, and that's smart.
So tell me a little bit about, again, I should have been refreshing this because people pop in and out. Afenya joined me from the ICAN Collective. It's a tech startup incubator in Chicago. Tell me a little bit, a couple of success stories, or how you've seen that, how you're seeing that work, and what you saw that differentiated those from other companies in the market that didn't make it.
Yeah, I think that so the cool thing about the people that I work with, a lot of the things that they do are companies that you haven't seen a lot of, and a lot of the founders are non-technical, which I think is great. So to your point about mowing lawns, there are a lot of women making money, bank from hair salons, selling hair, selling cosmetics. I have um, an entrepreneur I work with. She is also a former nurse, and she sells pound cakes, and she her company, she is a woman who has no technical experience, built her own website, started selling pound cakes on Facebook, because as a way to help her continue taking care of her mother. She's her mom's caregiver. Her mom is now recently on hospice, but
Oh wow,
she
I'm
shared
sorry.
her story. I know, but she's so grateful for the time she's had, and she's so thankful. But her she shared her story. Her post goes viral, and she started making these cakes as a
We're
way
taking
to,
back henbane territory.
help bring in extra income into the household. And she is killing it. She just raised what $7,500 through a company that I work with called Kiva. I don't know if you've heard of them. Kiva.org,
Yeah, yeah,
crowdfunding.
microloans.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, microloans, exactly. And so she is just doing her thing. She joined a food incubator called the Hatchery. She's selling those cakes. Like I said, the website site is hot, on fire. She sells so much, and it's just a matter of her doing heart work that has flourished. Um, another entrepreneur. Her name is. Sorry, I got these wireless earbuds in. In my
It's
day.
all good.
They are the funkiest things. Okay, but another a woman that I work with, she actually is a speaker that comes in often. She is a hair beauty it's hair product. She sells hair product for the natural hair of Black women, and so her company last July she launched her first launch. She was doing $17,000 a month. Now the at our last event, she told us how she is now making $100,000 a month selling hair products. She has gotten her products into a lot of major corporations, and just by that guerrilla marketing and hand-to-hand combat of selling, like we said, finding a gap in the market and filling it and connecting with her target customer. So she went from 0 to 100 literally real quick. And these are, like I said, these are not the companies, trust fund babies. These aren't people who had all of this background knowledge in how to build a business. They are doing it from the ground up, and it's just so exciting to see and so awesome to see people flourish and help each other. It's a community more than anything of people who share ideas and the things that
Deputy,
they've learned
sounds
along the
like there's
way
trouble over
to
there.
create
Be
impact.
careful.
So
And
I
remember,
love it.
you gotta burn those
Dang.
bliss fields.
We probably gotta go out there. We'll throw a link in on in the
Yes.
description of this video so people can check you out. Any other action or follow up points? I'd love to have you, pop back on in 2.5 months, just kind of give an update because, I mean,
I sure
that is the
will.
1% right there, like the 1% that she went from what? She went to $100,000 a month in a year.
Yes, yes, $100,000. And yes, that is. And I have a few people like that. And like you said, it is a slow process. And most of us don't necessarily take off like that. But people like that, that's why I bring them to really talk about what they've done and make this a strong community. I'm opening an event space, an event venue in October. It opens, and I would love, like you said, for me to come back in a few months and talk about how that's going. And we will be hosting more conferences, workshops, and giving people the ability to have pop ups to get people who don't have brick and mortar stores, get people engaged in what they're doing. So that's going to be in the South Loop. And I'm so excited about it. And I will definitely come back and talk more about it and how everything is going.
Dang. Where specifically? Where is it at? I mean,
Oh,
because
yeah,
I lived up there as recently as 6 months ago. So
yeah, yeah, sure. 2036 South Michigan Avenue is the address. And so right there on the corner of 20th and Michigan. So
okay.
it's a private entrance. You'll be able to, when it opens, I'll be able to give information on how to access and get inside and what programs we'll be offering and how people can connect. Always looking for people like you who want to come share their knowledge.
Okay. Well, that's I will be up there actually.
Okay,
I think we're coming up one time this year, so maybe there's something there. So I gotta get back to
cool.
work. This was super super cool. Call it 2 months from now.
Thank
Does that sound good?
you. That sounds excellent.
All
Maybe
right.
I'll have played a video game by then.
You do that.
Okay.